Hello, and welcome to Transforming Customer Experience, 3 Starting Points. My name is Sheila McGee-Smith. I'm an industry analyst that's been looking at the contact center and customer experience markets for over 30 years. This series is sponsored by VT Team. In episode 1, we'll talk about, wait, I need a new contact center? Or perhaps I need a contact center at all? Let's get started. So first I'm going to talk about some research that came from NTT, the 2021 Global Experience Benchmarking Report. This has been being published for over 20 years. And obviously the one that came out in September of 2021 had some great new insights into both consumer and company understanding of customer experience in this pandemic world. And this one sentence really speaks to me, that the pandemic highlighted weaknesses and opportunity in customer experience. Let's dive into where that overall statement came from. This is all voice of the customer data, and for the first time, NTT went and spoke to consumers around the globe, in addition to contact center managers and vice presidents of customer service the way they have in the past, because they wanted to be able to compare how consumers felt with how companies felt. And the conclusion was that it's been a catalyst to drive a new norm around customer expectations, the pandemic. So let's look at this data. 38% of the consumers that NTT spoke to said that the effectiveness of automated systems got better during the pandemic. And that's good. We know we were investing in better digital solutions and automation. But 52% said it stayed just the same. 36% of consumers said organizations became more responsive. But 45% said, again, no change. When asked, there are things that consumers said companies had done well and that they should build upon. One was improved digital functionality. So companies spent money on that, and consumers are saying, we recognize it, but you can do more. I'm getting a quicker response. Some of that may be due to the automation. And things that are made available around the clock are important. So these are the things that consumers are looking for in this pandemic world. Too early to say post-pandemic, right? So right in the middle of the pandemic, companies found sometimes their entire operation changed. And that's what happened to Phone Guru 101, which is a customer of VT Team. They needed a contact center, but didn't know they did until the pandemic hit. Before the pandemic, the business that they had, which was training companies when they had new systems come on, from Avaya or Cisco, they'd teach them how to use the handsets and the voicemail applications. And trainers would go out on site and during a cutover and help the users. Pretty straightforward, right? But once the pandemic hit, nobody was going on site. And so deployments still had to happen, but how did that training get done that had to get done? I spoke to Terry Lauterbaugh, who is the CEO and Chief Education Officer at Phone Guru 101, and she said they moved from a face-to-face business to a remote business. And they went from walking around during a cutover to using a contact center from Amazon Connect. Why did they choose Amazon? Well, with a very small cutover, right, a smaller company might just need one person, one trainer to help them with that cutover. A large deployment with thousands of users, they may need up to 70 trainers to help them during the day of a cutover and for the next few days. And what she liked about Amazon Connect was that the costs would be based on how many calls they took, right? Not on how many agent licenses they may need to handle a peak deployment. So that was positive. How did it transform the customer experience, right? It clearly transformed how trainers did the training. But one of the other capabilities that Phone Guru 101 now had was to send a text with a link to online, e-learning training for all the users of the upcoming cutover. And there was a way in there to initiate an SMS or a voice callback if they had questions as they were going through the e-learning. In the past, they had relied on the IT department to send out a link, and that didn't always happen. So being able to send a text to the users and initiate a way for them to call back if they needed to or communicate back led to a 34% increase in e-learning adoption, which, as we know, would lead to a smoother cutover. Phone Guru also feels like they can now give better day one support than they did before. Instead of end users on site walking around, not being able to see everyone at the same time, and finding half the employees don't even need support, now they're ready and waiting to give the response when people do need it, right? So when they're, behind an Amazon Connect application and able to take those calls and help users as it happens. I asked Terry if she saw her business returning to face-to-face, once we're out of this fog of pandemic that we're in. And she said no, she thinks this is actually more effective, both for her and for the customer. So Terry was an example of somebody who needed a contact center and didn't before. But there were a lot of companies who needed a new contact center, and for lots of different reasons. End of life of the existing system, a new project where the existing system can't grow to handle the new needs. You have a new product or service, you make an acquisition, you want to go into new markets, you have new customers. There's lots of reasons that companies decide on a new contact center. So one of the things you think about when you have those requirements is, do I buy something new, or can I keep what I have and perhaps extend it, right? Add some innovation to it. And we're going to talk about both choices over the course of this 3-webinar series. As we see, Phone Guru 101 made a new purchase, but in other webinars we'll talk about extending something that you have. What about the question of premise or cloud? Well, increasingly, that's a moot question. Even the vendors who have premises solutions today are investing their research and development dollars in building and improving cloud solutions. So very little is going into premises solutions other than absolutely, sort of minimal maintenance kind of investment. And clearly cloud does offer the flexibility that companies have always wanted and now can get. Think about Terry at Phone Guru 101. She doesn't have to buy 70 licenses because maybe once or twice a year she needs to have 70 trainers available. She can just pay for what she needs based on the projects that she has in hand. So as I said, we'll have 2 more episodes. Look for those. Episode 2 will be from IVR to digital automation. That's a good one. And then episode 3, sentiment analysis, driving innovation. And both of those will also include a customer from VTT. So join us for those as well. Thank you.